Welcome back to Rip's Garage. Now, while we're waiting for parts to rebuild the Hilux engine, I brought my 1978 Gemini Coupe in here. It's pretty old and ratty, but it does have a 2-litre fuel injected motor, and it does go pretty well. The only problem is it hasn't been on the road in about 11 years. So it's going to need a bit of work, and the first thing we need to do is to fix some rust. Now, the door corners is the front. That's pretty bad, and it has been repaired in the past. It's all bog in there. The rear is pretty bad as well. I haven't started chipping away at them yet. As you can see, the paint's pretty faded and there's chips in it all over the place, so eventually we'll be getting a respray. Someone in the past had a bad go at sealing up some cracks. Here we go. Started chipping away a bit at this one, and you can see how much bog there is. I think it actually goes all the way out here on both sides. And the back of that one, not too bad there, but I am missing the strip, the chrome strip that runs along down this side, so I need to source one of them as well. So hand tools weren't very effective. I'm going to have to swap over to some power tools, see if I can remove the bog and the rust really quickly. Alright, let's see how that goes. Actually not too bad. There's good steel under there. I'll have to rub this bit back a bit more just to see, because there's pinholes, but the edges, the frame, actually look quite solid. So I'm going to probably take it back to around here and see. This stuff I thought was bogs, really just a skim coat of filler, and I'll go on the inside and grind that back and see how bad the inside is as well. So that's a look of the inside of the corner there. We took all the paint off the back, but you can see it's come right through. Most of that's all still steel, but there's a big hole there. The edges are still solid. So I'm going to take all the rust and the paint off, and you can see that used to be covered up with bog, which I've it's fallen off up to that point, and then I'm going to keep taking the bog away, and we'll see how bad it is under there. Yeah, you can see that the edge there isn't too bad, but above it, where the metal's folded in, that's all rusty, so I'm probably going to have to cut that out. and we'll see how bad it is on the other side when we finish that. Alright, so now what's left is there's a couple of big chunks there. There's that one there which I think is steel that's rusted out, but it's covered in bog, and I think it'll come out if I hit it hard enough. There seems to be another one sort of there, which might be attached to the back of this piece, and there's still more bog here. That's primer, and underneath the primer is more bog. And I think that's about it for the corner bit, so I'll see what I can get rid of from the loose stuff. And then in the frame's actually in good condition, it's just what's pinched inside of the frame is all rusty. So I'm going to see if I can unfold the sides back and get all that stuff from inside out. And if I can do that, we should be able to slide either a new piece of steel in there or a piece of fiberglass or bog, depending on how we're going to do this repair. But yeah, see you when these big bits are out. Now this really shows you how the door is constructed. There's the outer skin, which forms this sort of lip, and then there's the inner part of the door that slides inside it, and then the lip is bent up. So I've just had to unfold the lip here, and I might continue that along, get rid of all the rusty inner part, and if we were going to replace it with new steel, we'd slide our new patch panel or replacement panel down into that pocket and bend the door back up, the outer skin back up. In this case, because we're going to go with bog for this repair, I'll unfold as much as I can. We'll rust treat all this, so scratch all the rust off, convert it so it's stable. Then we might put something solid inside there. We'll see how we go. Might be fiberglass, might be bog, might be maybe even steel, and then we'll bend it back up in place. Bog over the top of it, sand it back, bit of primer, and then paint. That should be it. So I'll just continue trying to get as much of the rusty stuff out that I can, and we'll see where we go from there. So now that I've got the bulk of the rust out from both sides, that's all solid metal there, quite thin, but it's still solid. I'm going to go through and hammer from the back side and the front just to make sure that everything's sort of in line and there's no jagged edges poking out. Then I'm going to get some rust converter and convert all this iron oxide, this rust, into the black stuff, the I think it's iron phosphate maybe. Double check though because I'm not 100% sure, but I'll check the bottle and let you know. And then once that's done, we'll be able to put something in here, some sort of backing so that the bog and the fiberglass or whatever we use will stick to it. And we'll fold these edges back up, get the profile back in place, and we'll just give it some bog to seal it all up. And the stuff I'm going to use is a very old bottle of, I believe it's Septone brand rust converter. You can get it from Super Cheap Auto. Pretty cheap. And this bottle's lasted me years and years. Now what you want to do here, once you've got all the rust off, is to push the metal back in, right? Make it low so that when you put your putty over the top, it takes up the gap. You don't want any high spots because you won't be able to putty over them. So I can feel a bit of a high spot here. That's better. Just tap a few more in. Yep, that's better. And now we get our rust converter, and just in case there's any surface rust, put it on there. And we'll let that dry. Right, so now what we've got to do is build a little bit of a backing plate to apply our bog to. We're going to slip it down in between the door skins, and it'll give us something for the bog to stick to. Now I've got a roll of damp course here, but you could use anything that's non-water absorbent. So you could get away with using business cards, they're cardboard, but you probably should use something plastic. One thing I've found works really well is the bottom of those reusable green shopping bags. They've always got a sort of plastic base in there, black plastic rectangle, and that's got a bit of a pattern on one side so it helps things stick to it. The other side's kind of glossy, so probably best to use where you only want to bog one side of it. But in this case, it's got this nice crosshatch on both sides, and that'll give the bog something to stick to. And since it's thin, we don't need anything that's very thick to go in there. So in trying to sand this, you can see that the bottom corner of the door is kicked in a fair bit, and it's hard to sand it without damaging these panels. Ideally you'd pull the door right off and have it on a stand, but in this case what I'm going to do is take the guard off and see if we can work on it just with the guard off. Now to get these guards off, you've got a bolt up here in the corner. You've got a series of them along the top. Then up in there is another one, and there's one last one, little sneaky one, which is on the inside, just in there, and this one looks to have been replaced with a screw at some point. So anyway, we'll put you up on a stand and take all those out.